We've got two previews for you for the T20 World Cup finale from Group A. Group 1, in fact. And that is Ireland against New Zealand and Australia against Afghanistan. I'm Steve Wyss. I'm joined by Kevin Harper, who's now off his sick bed after... You've been a bit rough this week, haven't you, my friend?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it just absolutely got me on Wednesday. And while I'm not perfect at the minute, I want to get back into picking some winners. So, let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go indeed. Unfortunately, we missed that Pakistan versus South Africa game, but we're back with a doubleheader here. And we're going to start with Ireland against New Zealand. Both matches are going to be played from Adelaide. So we've gone through the pitch dimensions there before. We know it's a very long boundary down the ground, but square the wicket, you can certainly get yourself a few runs. The weather forecast, by the way, is excellent for once here. Absolutely no chance of rain. Look at this low, literally 5% chance of rain. And it's going to be a nice sort of cool 20 degrees. Perfect sort of day for cricket, Kev.
Yeah, I think the weather's fine for the rest of the tournament now, Steve. So
excellent.
Fingers crossed that stays the case and we can make some good money.
Yeah, exactly that. So Ireland, New Zealand, I mean, the equation is quite simple for New Zealand, isn't it? Just really win the game because they've got such a superior net run rate that a victory here in any fashion will surely see them through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, win and they're in, aren't they? I don't see any sort of situation that tells me that they won't be, but obviously, if they happen to win by a decent distance, it certainly won't do them any harm, will it? But any win, you've got to think it's enough to take them through.
You certainly do, and it's no real surprise to see them such a short price favourite, 1.13 favourite to win this game. Ireland shouldn't really give them too much difficulty, should they?
No, they shouldn't. No, these two met earlier in the year in a T20 series in Ireland. New Zealand won that 3-0, and they didn't even take their best side with them. So that kind of highlights where both teams are. There was no Bolt in that. There was no Kane Williamson. There was no Devon Conway, and a couple of others didn't go either. So that would suggest that these odds are perfectly fair.
Let's go on to a couple of match bets for the game then. We are going with a 4-man for New Zealand here. Glenn Phillips over 23.5 runs at Bet Victor for 3 units. A man who's been finding the middle of the bat plentiful in this tournament.
Yeah, he really has, hasn't he? Particularly the last 2 games, century against Sri Lanka, and he was well on his way to a century against England, wasn't he? Until he mistimed one, got caught by Chris Jordan right on the boundary. It's the scores against Ireland that catch my eye, though, Steve. In that series that I mentioned, he scored 69 not out, 23, which annoyingly would lose this bet, but he's right on it, and 56 not out. So he's pretty good against this bowling attack. Most of the shots he's played, the big shots he's played in this tournament, have been square of the wicket, haven't they? And obviously, square of the wicket here is very, very short, particularly one side, because they played on one side of the pitch. Was it Wednesday the first games were here? So I suspect they'll be on the other side of the pitch this time around. So there'll be a short boundary. Even the longer boundaries aren't particularly long for him. And, he's the one in the middle order who sort of has that time to just get himself in and then get flowing. And obviously he'll, coming in at 4, he shouldn't, if everything goes to plan, run into Josh Little. And if he doesn't run into Josh Little, there isn't a great deal else in this Ireland attack that you need to worry about. So I see no reason why Phillips' good run can't continue.
I think the only way he doesn't get these runs is if the others above him get them and he just comes in for a cameo or something. That would be rather frustrating. But, he's certainly come in at some difficult times in innings this year, this tournament, and he's delivered. So I actually quite like this cricketer, I must say. I love his attitude. He beats himself up a bit, but I think it's quite a good thing. It works for him, doesn't it? So Glenn Phillips, not asking a lot. It seems quite a low line for a run. I think this line should be up near the 30 mark, really, based on what we've seen.
Yeah, he's going to come in at 4, isn't he? Finn Allen's going to open the batting, but he's very all or nothing. So if he's nothing, Williamson doesn't look in great nick. Conway's had that good innings, hasn't he, in the first game, but not a great deal since then. So, he's the mainstay of the batting, really, isn't he? So, I agree. I think the line's pretty low.
Okay. Second bet, you're going into the top island batsman market and a big price again. A man that you've backed already in this tournament, and that is Mark Adair, 50-1 for a 1-unit selection here, top island batsman. So you're convinced, aren't you, this man has some sort of an innings before this tournament's done?
Yeah, and particularly here, they're not really playing for anything, are they? The commentators will tell you that they can qualify, but I mean, they need to win by so much, and then other results have to go their way that it's not really possible. That series earlier in the year, Steve, he made 25, 27 and 37 not out. If he makes those kind of scores here, then he's going to be in the mix, isn't he? It's really only Lorcan and Tucker that's done anything of consistency for Ireland in this tournament. Balbirnie had one good innings, Sterling had one good innings, Camphor had one good innings. But the rest of them, they've not really done anything. And either side of their one good innings, none of them have done much. So someone down the order could top score here. And I mean, if you think back to previous New Zealand games, Sri Lanka's top score came from very much deeper in the innings. I think it was 7 where Shanaka walked out. Obviously, Australia, Pat Cummins almost top scored for them in the very first game. So, they've got the new ball attack, haven't they, to get stuck in New Zealand. And if they do that, there's no reason why Adair can't come in and club a few. He looked like he was just starting to get going in their last game, didn't he? And then he got himself out. So, yeah, I am convinced that there is an innings, or at least I'll pay to see if there's an innings in him in what I expect to be their final game.
Mark Adair, top island batsman at 50-1. Let's move on to the second match, Australia against Afghanistan. The scenario for Australia is a little bit more difficult because they've got to win. Well, first and foremost, win, and then they can hope that Sri Lanka beat England. But, they really need to be looking at winning this match and winning it well, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Sri Lanka beat England, then that's happy days for Australia, but they can't really put their eggs in that basket, can they? They need to win this and win it by enough to get ahead of England's run rate. I think it was 75 runs, wasn't it, against Ireland that they were quoting to take over England. And they won by 42, and then England won by 20. So you're looking at something around the region of 60 runs to overtake England's run rate. And then, of course, England have got the chance to better their run rate again. So really, you're looking at Australia wanting to win this by 80, 85, 90 runs, or chasing a target down in something daft like 10 overs, just to give themselves the best chance. And then they'd still have that kind of Sri Lanka win on their side. But if I was Australian, I wouldn't want to be relying on that.
I mean, they've got to come out hard, big bat and ball straight away, haven't they? They've got to be so aggressive in this game. Are Afghanistan the sort of team they can just demolish, you think?
I mean, they are. The one thing that you would say is that Afghanistan's star, Rashid Khan, this is his home ground in the Big Bash. Adelaide Strikers he plays for. But yeah, you look at the game against Sri Lanka that Afghanistan just played, they just left a few runs out on the pitch, didn't they? And that was against Sri Lanka. So you would imagine they're going to do the same against this Australia attack that has basically just ripped Ireland apart, with the exception of that Tucker innings.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they'll be motivated here, Afghanistan? Would they want to be the party pooper? Are they going to really... I mean, they'll want to put a show on for the world, won't they?
Yeah, it's their final game of the tournament, isn't it? And they haven't actually played that badly.
They've hardly played, have they?
Well, there's that as well, isn't there? And I mean, in the 2 games that they've played, they've just been a bit naive with regards to setting the standards of the score that they need to reach. I mean, England only kind of laboured to beating them, and Sri Lanka at one stage were labouring as well. So, had it not been for Dhananjaya de Silva's innings, who knows what would have happened in that game. And they just need that little bit of quality throughout the innings. They kind of get off to good starts, Afghanistan, but without being necessarily quick, very much in the Pakistan mould. If they could just be a little bit sharper at the top and then just bat cleverly for the rest of the innings, they could at least put a score up here. I mean, if they put a score up of, 150, they know Australia have got to go balls out to get it. So, it would give them a chance. And obviously, as I've just said, Rashid Khan knows every inch of this ground. He's played on it 4 or 5 seasons now. So they're not without a chance. But, I mean, obviously, this would be the biggest upset of the tournament if Afghanistan won this game.
He's probably the biggest challenge for Australia, isn't he? Rashid Khan, to actually smack him away for a high run rate is not easy.
No, it's not, no. But they'll pack themselves with batters, so they'll give themselves the best chance of doing it.
Right, the first bet for the game then. Probably the best bet of the day, you would have to say, Kev. Pretty obvious one, really. But over 6.5 Australian sixes at even money with William Hill. I think we had the same line, or was it 5.5 line before? Very similar line in the last match. We backed him against, who was it? Anyway, it came in. And I mean, it's pretty obvious. If they're going to get what they want out of the game, they've got to score a lot of quick runs, and sixes is the best way to score them.
Yeah, and that was at Brisbane, which isn't the biggest ground in the world, but it's certainly not as short as the square boundaries are here. Ireland's bowling attack, to be fair, Ireland bowled pretty well in that game. But like you say, still covered with about 5 overs to go as well, even though there were only 7 sixes. I expected it to be covered even earlier here. Australia are just going to send batter after batter after batter in. I mean, they may as well lose, really, Steve, as not win by a landslide. You know, and if Sri Lanka do beat England, then so be it. But I really, really can't see why Australia would put their eggs in the Sri Lanka basket. I don't think Sri Lanka are playing well enough to beat England, particularly at Sydney. So, yeah, I think Australia have got to go big here. I mean, you look at their top 7, they're all big hitters. There is talk that Aaron Finch misses this game. He was looking very, very groggy, wasn't he, with his hamstring in the last game. If he misses here, Cameron Green will go in and probably open the batting. So either way, they're going to have 7 hitters in the team, 8 if you include Cummins. And there's more than enough hit in there. Even if they just bat Rashid Khan out, there's still 16 other overs that can go the distance. And Australia have got no choice but to go on the attack. So on this ground in particular, I really expect this to land. Yes, the Afghanistan spinners will be a problem. But, you know, I would imagine Australia will be sweeping them. And, you know, that's the right shot to play because you're attacking the square boundaries, which are very, very short.
Over 6.5 Australian sixes at even money. William Hill for 5 units. Strongest bet of the day. One more selection for this game, and it's Glenn Maxwell, man of the match. 7-1 with Coral. He's actually the second favourite in this market for man of the match. So he's expected to do great things.
And that's no surprise. He's the best player of spin in this Australia side. Best player of spin by some distance as well. He's also a spinner in his own right, isn't he? Bowled in the power play against Ireland, took a couple of wickets in that game. And, you know, he may well do very similar here. A couple of the Afghanistan middle order are left-handers, so it would make sense for Maxwell to bowl his off-spin to those. But it's just the way he plays spin. It's also the way he hits the cricket ball. You know, if Australia win this game and they win it big, it's going to be one of these big hitters that catches the eye. Maxwell was just getting going, wasn't he, in that last game? And then he mishit one down the ground. And I think this Afghanistan attack probably suits him nicely. He's very, very good at player of spin, whether it's reverse sweep, normal sweep, clouting it to mid-wicket, or wherever it is. He's a very good player of spin. And given that Afghanistan are likely to bowl 12 overs of it, it makes perfect sense for Maxwell to be the best Australia player. And obviously, if he is the best Australia player, he's likely to be the player of the match because I don't see an Afghanistan player getting in the mix.
Yeah, he's due a really big one, isn't he, Maxwell? Stand out. It's not often he'll go a whole group stage without something extraordinary. So this could be a good chance to get on his bandwagon because, got to be honest, that man at the top of the list for favourite for man of the match looks really out of touch to me, David Warner, right now. Just doesn't look like he's going to be threatening this man of the match market.
He has a wonderful record in Adelaide, though, doesn't he? He fills his boots in all formats there. So there is that. But, I mean, you have to play the here and now, don't you? And the here and now is that he's not batting particularly well. So
no.
And if Finch doesn't play, then that will take him out of the equation as well.
Brilliant. Okay, so 4 bets for the day then. Let's have a recap here. First one is Glenn Phillips over 23.5 runs at Bet Victor for 3 units. That's Ireland against New Zealand. And Mark Adair, top Ireland batsman at 50-1 for a 1 unit stake. And then on to Australia, Afghanistan. Australia over 6.5 sixes at even money for William Hill, 5 unit selection, the strongest selection of the day. And then Glenn Maxwell, man of the match at 7-1. Coral for a unit. Let's hope you are going to be feeling even better tomorrow, Kevin, because we've got plenty to preview ahead of the weekend. Best of luck with those plays.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, hopefully some winners, get rid of this cold a little bit quicker, and we can get cracking with what's a good conclusion to the group stage.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Let's hope we can get back to winning ways. Not back to winning ways. Let's get some more winners, in fact, for Friday's contests, and hope for some exciting cricket. So we'll see you next time.